Well, I took care of my parents when they got elderly and they were financially challenged and health challenged, so I took care of them. And being that close to them, like my mom became my best friend, and you kind of see where the path is going as health gets worse, but nothing ever prepares you really for death. And so it was really tough for me when my mom died, which was about 18 months after my dad died. And then it was just kind of like, what does God have for my life now?
Jim and my story is very similar, and I took care of both my parents for years. My mom first for 15 years, and then she went into a nursing home. And then after that, my dad came back into the home, and he was health challenged at the time as well. And so I went from taking care of my mom to taking care of my dad. And my mom was in the nursing home. And she was there for 3.5 years, I think, before she passed. And that was a rough time for me because by then my dad's health was better. And so you just don't know what to do with yourself sometimes during those days.
Even when my parents were alive, it was a different type of grief because I would see the families together on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, kids, and you knew what was going to happen next. They were going to go home, have a great celebration, and it's something I always wanted, but I never got. So there was a grief for something I never had. And then after my parents died, I didn't even want to put up a Christmas tree. It was just, my mom loved Christmas so much, and it's just like I shut down, and people encouraged me, no, that's not what your mom would have wanted for you. And you do navigate grief, and you never get over grief, but you do get through it.
I was able to deal with that up front last year. My dad passed away on November 2nd of 2022, and our family home was gone, and so our family really didn't even have a place to get together for Thanksgiving, which we always did. So Jim and I had Thanksgiving together ourselves, and then same situation at Christmas. My family didn't have a really good place to get together, and so we ended up getting together on New Year's. And in between that time, I lost my dog. So this was last year was a tough Christmas for me. But I just had to trust and believe that God's hand was with me, and He comforted me, and I was able to make it through.
So it was about 3 weeks after my mom died. And she died on February 25th of 2014. And I was in my office at the bank, and I just had this voice, for lack of a better word, that said, write a book. And I even took a yellow sticky note and I put write a book on there, like it's something you're going to forget. But then I was like, well, what would I write about? And I sat down and I kind of thought, well, if I wrote about this or this or this, and I actually had a different title for the book to begin with. It was going to be Honor Thy Father and Thy Mother. Time ran out on earth, but love lasts forever. And my mom wasn't here for me to take care of, so when I would get done with work, I would eat a little bit, sit down at the computer, say a prayer, and just start typing. And within 3 months, I had the book written. I went through the self-publishing process, and then at the last minute, right before I hit OK, I'm like, that's not the right title. And I'm talking with my pastor, and a couple weeks later, and he's like, Jim, don't worry, God knows what the title should be. I'm like, oh, God knew. And I went back and I looked at the manuscript that night, and like 47 times I'd used the phrase God knew in the book. And so it was really my mom's death. And I told some friends of mine that I thought this was a good way that my mom and dad would be immortalized in a book. And she said, they already are. They're in the book of life.
Well, Jim and I feel like we have a pretty good story. And as we tell the story to people about how God brought us together and how our lives were so similar and how we both took care of parents and we both really hadn't had much of a dating life, because really taking care of parents, it overtakes your life. And we both were working full time, and so that wasn't a part of life that we unfortunately were able to prioritize. And so when we got together and we shared our story to our friends, and they'd start tearing up, they'd start crying, they'd say, "Oh my gosh, you need to write this in a book." And so we decided that's going to be the plan. We'll write a sequel someday. And then COVID hit and some other things happened, and it just was taking a couple years, and then all of a sudden this year we decided this is the year, and so we did.
Linda's right. You know, when you look at our lives and how we came together, it's nothing short of a God knew thing. There's nobody else that could have orchestrated us meeting, our engagement, the wedding, and how everything just fell into place at the right time. And it was just trusting in Him, trusting in His faithfulness, and trusting in His timing. And that's how we got the title, Faithfulness Fulfilled.